Welcome to Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name's Abdullah.
And my name is Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids, here to educate and empower us kids from the inside out.
Chronic diseases have quadrupled among children since the 1960s. Now, 54% of all American children are diagnosed with a chronic health condition, with numbers increasing to 80% by 2025. Many kids have overlapping diseases as there is a rise in inflammatory conditions like allergies, asthma, eczema, and autoimmune conditions. 1 in 5 kids have eczema. 1 in 13 kids under the age of 18 have asthma, and 1 in 13 children have food allergies.
That is so scary. We have dealt with allergies and eczemas. It is no fun. But thank goodness, not anymore. What is going on with all of us kids?
Well, guess what? We are in luck, and we have an amazing expert here who will help us answer just that question. And she has a best-selling book coming out soon.
Yay!
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 A new book!
We're going to do.
So, Sheila Kilbane MD, is a board-certified pediatrician trained in integrative medicine with Andrew Weil, and she used the best of conventional integrative medicine to identify and treat the root cause of children's illnesses. Her goal is to help children reach the highest of optimal health so they can thrive. Using her 7-step process along with natural and nutritional therapies, Dr. Kilbane helps significantly improve or resolve altogether childhood illnesses such as eczema and recurrent ear and sinus infections, asthma, allergies, constipation, or stool, and other GI issues such as abdominal pain. In addition to seeing individual patients at her private practice in Charlotte, North Carolina, Dr. Kilbane gives educational lectures to help parents and healthcare professionals around the globe, and even offers online education courses. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheila, for joining us today.
So much.
Oh my God, the pleasure is all mine. I have been watching your videos, gentlemen, and you are rock stars. You're hysterical. I love it.
Well, we are so honored today.
Well,
So
thank
honored.
you.
So
I'm
honored.
super happy to be here.
So let's start with what is your story in your perspective? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So how many kids do you have in your family? 4, right?
Yeah.
4. So when I grew up, I'm the youngest of 5, and I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. And I was always running around and I was catching frogs, and I would fish, and was cutting things open and looking inside. And I always knew this is what I wanted to do. So then when I finished my training and I started practicing medicine, I was seeing kids in my practice, and it was the kids who had eczema and recurrent ear and sinus infections or asthma or constipation. And I would give them a medication, whether it was an antibiotic or a steroid or an antacid, and they would get better for 2 weeks, and we'd stop the medication, and then 2 weeks later, they would be sick again, and they'd be back in the office. So I got to know these families and these kids really well because they were in the office all the time. But I kept saying to myself, what is going on? This isn't, we're helping their symptoms for a little while, but we're not really getting to the root of the issue. So then, and I remember this very clearly, one day, one of the moms came in, and it was a boy. So I'd been seeing this little boy since he'd been born, and he had recurrent ear infections and he had eczema. and he was still breastfeeding. And the mom said to me, Dr. Kilbane, I went off dairy and Johnny's eczema improved. And I thought, I don't know why, but let's, stay off of dairy. And so then, but he was still getting the ear infection. So I had to refer him to get ear tubes. And then before his 1-year well visit, mom had a big omelet, which is a bunch of eggs, right? And he had a big eczema flare. And so what we figured out then is that, okay, not only dairy flares his eczema, but also eggs do. So we kept dairy and eggs out of his diet and mom's diet. And I said, come back in a few weeks so I can reach, because there was an insurance glitch with the ear tubes. And so he hadn't gotten the ear tubes yet. So they came back a few weeks later and the fluid in his middle ear had cleared up and his eczema had fully resolved because it hadn't gone away fully off of the dairy. So I thought to myself, I don't know what's happening. I've never heard about this. And then I just kept studying and reading. And what I know now is that about a third of the time with eczema, food can be a trigger, and dairy and eggs are the two big culprits. So then I just continued to study, and I eventually went on and did an integrative medicine fellowship with that Dr. Andrew Weil. And it was the best thing ever, because now I have this huge toolbox to help the kids that I see. And it makes, to understand how profoundly nutrition impacts children's health is incredible, right? You've all seen it.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's my story. And that's how, now what I do is I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all I do is integrative medicine. So the kids, they stay with their pediatrician and then they just come and see me, because as pediatricians, we don't really get nutrition training in medical school, which I think a lot of people find that hard to believe. We get a little bit. We learn that, we learn what happens if you have a severe vitamin deficiency, like if you have low vitamin C, you get scurvy, and, we learn things like that, but we don't really learn the subtle nuances of nutrition. And so what the pediatricians we have to honor what we study. And so I've studied a ton about nutrition and a lot about supplements and digestion and things like that, so that I see the kids and we work through that. And then hopefully we get it so that they only need to go see their pediatrician for their well visits and they're not going in for all of these sick visits.
That is such an inspiring story.
Inspiring.
So, Dr. Sheila, we have heard that this is the first generation that may not outlive their parents. And that is super crazy. So why are kids getting so sick?
Well, I think this is a topic that we could talk about for hours, I think. But one of the ways that I explain it is that we're eating food that's really different right now, right? We have a lot of packaged and processed foods, and previous generations, we were eating more foods that grew in gardens, and that we were cooking at home and eating at home more. So we've added this big element of foods that are much more inflaming, and our bodies don't always know, we're not processing that food well. And then with things that we're putting in the environment. So we're using a lot more herbicides and pesticides and things like that. And those impact our body. And what happened around in the mid-90s, there's a group called the Environmental Working Group. And they did a study, it's called the 10 Human Study. And they took babies and they drew what's called cord blood. So you know how you have, there's an umbilical cord between the baby and the mom, and that's what gives the baby all the nutrition. So they drew the cord blood right after the babies were born. So the babies hadn't even set foot on the planet yet. And they tested it for different chemicals, for 400 different chemicals. And every single one of these babies had almost 300 different chemicals in their bodies. And some of them were medications that had gotten into the groundwater. So what we do with our medicines is some people flush it down the toilet, we'll throw it in the garbage and it goes in the landfill, and then that seeps into our groundwater. There were medications like asthma medications and hormone medications and antidepressant medications. And there were things like pesticides and chemicals that had been banned 30 years prior to this study. So because what we thought before that study is we thought that the placenta, which is what is the baby is wrapped in, we thought that filtered all of these things out. But what we realized then is that the babies are getting exposed to these things. And, our rates of these illnesses are so much higher than they were previously. And I just think we're exposing ourselves to a lot more things than we ever have before. So that's why the things that you're doing right now and that your mom are doing are so important, because people need to understand this. And I always say it's not always rocket science, right? We just have to get back to doing things the natural way.
What sickness are you seeing the most in kids?
So we are seeing a lot of GI issues. So kids with belly pain, constipation, they might have a whole lot of food sensitivities. Like maybe the mom has taken dairy and gluten out of that and, have made some really good changes, and the kids might still be struggling. We see a lot of eczema. And we also are seeing sometimes when you have these other physical symptoms, sometimes kids' moods can be off, and they can also have some behavior challenges and maybe some anxiety, things like that. So it's we're seeing a lot more of all of those things.
Today, we're talking about allergies and eczema. For those that don't know what that is, what are symptoms of these issues?
Yeah, so allergies, and we can have environmental allergies and we can have food allergies. And so we're kind of food allergies, most people know that's where you can get swelling. If we have a lot of peanut allergies and food allergies, and you eat those and you can have your lips swell up and your throat can swell up, and that's called anaphylaxis. So that's what a food allergy is. And then when we have environmental allergies, that's where we're allergic to things in the environment, the outdoor things like grasses, trees, weeds, molds. And then we have indoor allergens, which are things like cats and dogs and cockroaches and dust mites, and also mold. Mold can be indoors and it can also be outdoors. And those create runny nose and congestion and watery, itchy eyes and some coughing. And then eczema is where we get this really dry, rough, irritated rash on the skin, and it can be kind of scabbed, it can be super itchy, and it can be all over the body. But it also a lot of times will start off right here in our elbows and behind our knees, but it can be all over the body. And we're just seeing kids that it's getting worse and worse, and we're having to do more things in order to help get it under control.
So where can parents start learning how to help their child?
Yeah, so many of us who do what your mother and I do, we write books and we put a lot of information on our website, so they can start looking, listening to your shows. And my website is SheilaKilbane.com, and I have this book that will be released on September 14th. And in my book, I wrote out my book is like 3 sections. In the first section, I really go through and I talk about the science. So that's a great place. I wanted families to have all of this information in one place. And then the second section of the book is actually the how-to. How do we make food changes? How do we do supplements? Do we need to do supplements? What do we need to do? And then the third section are recipes, which are, if you're going to start cooking at home and eating more clean food, we've got to cook at home, right?
Yes.
You gentlemen cook?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. What's your favorite thing to eat?
I have a lot of favorite things to eat.
Oh, good.
Yes, we like to eat food.
Good. And you're good, healthy eaters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Awesome. So that's where all of the people who do what it's called integrative medicine and functional medicine. And, if parents can, you can start on my website, on your mom's website, and you can also go you can pull those things up and you can find practitioners who do what we do in your area. And if you go to if you put in Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine, and I actually have a link on my website to help people find these things, because we get emails and messages from all over the globe of families looking for physicians who do what your mom and I do. And because there aren't that many of us trained. And so that's also why we do different programs, online courses and things like that. And that's what I have an online course to help families do this. And that's by the book also.
So usually a lot of these conditions are usually resolved with medications. So are you saying that these conditions can be healed naturally?
Great question. So one of the hallmarks of integrative medicine is that we use the best of both integrative and conventional medicine. So if we need medicines, we absolutely use medicines. And what we do, though, is we recognize that the body has a really powerful innate ability to heal itself when we give it the right food and when we remove the things that are triggering inflammation. So sometimes we can do it without medicines, but sometimes we use medicines, and that's totally fine. And what we do is, as we're working through the integrative process, we're making sure that kids have really healthy cells. Do you know what a cell is?
Yes.
Yeah.
The tiny things in your body.
Exactly. And do you know what a cell wall is made of?
Cells?
Well, it's made up of fat. So it's made up of, right? So we've got those good omega-3 fats that your mom talks about, it comes in fish, chia seed, flaxseed, hemp seed. So those things make up our cell walls. And when we're working with the integrative and the conventional methods, we help the kids have really healthy cell walls. So then the cells, they're nice and fluid and they move nicely, and nutrients can go in and out of them easily. And that way, if we do need a medicine, if we've got really healthy cells, the medicines are going to be able to work optimally at the lowest dose with the best efficacy and the least side effects. So and that's also why I love integrative medicine, because I feel like it helps me be a better all-around doctor, because when I need medicines, we have a better chance that they're going to work well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The resounding. I love the unison answer.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Nice.
You mentioned inflammation for the listeners of all the world. What is inflammation?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. A lot of people ask me that when we have this conversation. So have any of you ever sprained your ankle, or have you ever been playing basketball and you jammed your finger and it kind of swells up?
Yeah.
You might be too young to have had that happen yet. But when you twist your ankle, it swells up very quickly, so it gets bigger. So we think of swelling, it's puffy, red, warm to the touch, and that's white blood cells are going. So those cells, right, those little things we're talking about, they go to that area, and then they start to repair the damaged tissue that happened when you sprained the ankle. And so inflammation is when we have cells from one part of the body going to another part of the body. So we need inflammation to a certain extent, like when we sprain the ankle. But what's happened is many people have too much inflammation. So if you sprain your ankle and you've got a lot more inflammation than what your body needs, that ankle may swell up and stay swollen for a lot longer than it would if you didn't have so much inflammation. And we also need inflammation, like if you cut your finger, you need inflammation to go to that area to help heal up that area so that it will stop the bleeding. And when we look at nutrition, food can increase inflammation or it can decrease inflammation. So we're going to use food in order to keep our inflammation to a minimum and to keep our cells really healthy.
So there are two kind of inflammations, right? Acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation is kind of a minor kind of issue, inflammation where you get a cut or like the ones that you were talking about. But chronic inflammation is the one that we should be worried about. How can we lower this kind of inflammation? And today, ultra unprocessed food or ultra processed foods consist of 2/3 of the children and teens calorie intake you mentioned, or like, right? So how can we lower the chronic inflammation?
Exactly. Such a good question. So the way that I lay it out, so inflammation creates illness and symptoms. And so what we want to do is we also want to take a step back and say, what triggers inflammation? So we have 5 main triggers of inflammation. First of all, we've got our genetics, right? We've all got different genetics. And then it's the way that our genes interact with these triggers. And the triggers are, so if people are watching, it's food, environmental allergies, environmental toxins, infectious diseases, and stress. And stress can be physical, like if you break an arm or maybe you have scoliosis or something like that, or it can be emotional. If you have a lot of stuff, like if a child is getting bullied at school, or maybe they have, maybe learning is really tough for them and it worsens their stress when they go to school. So we're never going to completely decrease our stress. What we do is we build our toolbox to manage our stress, and we eliminate what we can. But what we want to do is we want to build up that resiliency. So those are those 5 main triggers of inflammation. And we just work through each of those to decrease. And we can never be perfect in any one of those. And so, because we don't live in vacuums, and we want to decrease the, do what we can with food, environmental allergies. Let me give you a good example. So one of my patients, this was many years ago, they came to me because they were looking for the integrative approach. And this little boy had big dark circles under his eyes. He had recurrent wheezing episodes. He had a lot of runny nose and congestion. He was a mouth breather. So he was like, kind of like that Darth Vader breathing. And he was, he would have restless sleeping. And so what we did is we went, and he also, when he was a baby, he had a lot of colic and reflux and irritability. So a lot of those signs of inflammation can point toward a dairy sensitivity. And so we decided we're going to take dairy out of his diet. And then we looked at environmental allergies, and he already had environmental allergy testing, and his dust mites were over 100. He had really a significant allergy to dust mites. And so then I always just go through and ask mom and dad the pertinent questions. And I said, well, how old is his mattress? Because mattresses can collect a lot of dust mites, pillows, mattresses, stuffed animals. And he was sleeping on a mattress that had been his uncle's from when his uncle was in college. So mom and I decided, okay, let's throw the mattress out. Let's get a new mattress. We'll take dairy out of his diet. So we impacted 2 of those areas of inflammation, decreased significantly. And they came back and saw me a few weeks later, 3 to 4 weeks later, and he was like a different kid. He was breathing out of his nose. He was doing so much better. And prior, he was needing albuterol, which is a medicine that you need for wheezing. And he was able to really cut out needing that. And he, like, as he grew older and as he went into teenage years, he maybe once a year would need to use his albuterol, but he didn't have to be on any other asthma medication. So we use food, and then there are a lot of ways to use food. We want to increase our fruits and our vegetables and decrease our processed foods, right? And our artificial dyes and colors.
That so you were talking about genes, and there was a study that actually came out about how these food environment can actually alter your genes, right?
Yes, exactly. You are three smart fellas. So there was a study out of by a fella named Randy Girdle. So there's this whole field called epigenetics. And what that is, so we know that we've got our underlying genes, and then we've got this DNA material that sits above our genes. That's why they call it epi. That means above the genes. And what we know about these genes now, we used to think that we just had our DNA and whatever, like say maybe our dad had a heart attack at 55, so we figured we automatically were also going to have a heart attack at 55. But what we know now, so with these studies, they took mice, and they were obese mice, and they were yellow, and they had diabetes. And the researchers fed them something called methylators, which are green leafy vegetables. So that just means it's a chemical compound that you get in green leafy vegetables. And what they found is that the babies, when they were born, were normal weight, and they were brown, and they were non-diabetic. So this was like, what? We'd never heard of anything like this in the medical field. And so what we know now is that foods have a big power, and they can turn genes off that we don't necessarily want turned on. And it's not our underlying DNA. It's just they're called gene SNPs. And so that's where the power of what we do with families, those of us who do integrative medicine, is we don't ever change the kids. What we do is we change the environment that the cells live in, right? So we do really good nutrition, we modify stress, we look at environmental allergies. So that's how we literally use food to help with how to improve our health. And our gene expression is what you call that.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
What other lifestyle factors help our health and help improve allergies and eczema?
Yeah, so the other big ones, I always lay it out. We've got, what are the things that we're exposed to? So we breathe about 10,000 liters of air a day. So we want to have clean air that we're breathing. We drink, anywhere from 1 to 3 liters of water a day. So we want to have good, clean, filtered water. And then we eat, 3 meals a day plus snacks. So we want to have good organic food whenever possible, or food that maybe you grow at home. And then we want to be mindful of the environment of the stress that we're putting ourselves in. And because kids and parents kids resonate to what's happening with the parents. So we always want parents to make sure that they're doing whatever they can to manage their own stress. And again, we're always going to have stress, and stress can be good, right? You want to get a little stressed if you have a test, because it's going to motivate you to study. But if we've got this, chronic, the same way that we talked about acute inflammation versus chronic inflammation, if we've got this chronic stress, we could have a child on perfect supplements and perfect food, but we're not going to see those really nice improvements, because our body isn't going to be digesting food the way that we want it to if our bodies are super stressed. Right?
Wow, amazing and phenomenal. That is so much amazing, great information. What is one thing parents can do today to help improve their child's health?
Yes. So I love to give really simple tips. And if you can do anything, and this I'll take it from the food standpoint, is switch breakfast take out the cereal and milk, or the bagel and cream cheese, or the toaster treats, and have a green smoothie for breakfast. So maybe you can put greens in it. You can do some lettuce, you can do microgreens, you can do some spinach, you can do kale, and then you put, maybe some banana, some fruit in it. And if you're a picky eater, put a lot more fruit in it at the beginning, and then you can build up the amount of greens that you put in it. And that, maybe you have that and a piece of whole grain toast with some nut butter, something like that, so that you feel nice and full until lunchtime. But if you can do anything, I would just change breakfast.
So you were talking, remember, green smoothies don't always have to be green. We love adding color to our smoothies with orange and red, all of those amazing rainbow foods.
Exactly. And what the studies show is that people who eat 30 different plant-based foods per week have the most diverse microbiome, which I know you all know this, is that we have more bacteria in our gut than we have cells in our body. And we want a lot of different species in our gut. And it's those colorful plant-based foods that feed the bacteria in the gut, because those plant-based foods have a lot of fiber and antioxidants and all of those phytonutrients that we need.
Dr. Sheila, please tell us more about your new book.
Are you all dancers?
No.
I am.
I think you've got like a rhythm when you talk. I would think that you would be good dancers.
I'm more of a speaker.
I'm a talker.
Got it.
Obviously, I'm a talker.
You're the dancer though.
Yeah,
So with my book, like I had shared with you before, it's called Healthy Kids, Happy Moms, and it's 7 steps to heal and resolve common childhood illnesses. I better know what the book is called, right? And so it's like 3 books in one. And the first part of it is I go through the science and I talk about, all of why I do what I do, and I go through cases, and it's a full color book. So we have all these really great visuals. And then the second part is the step by step. It's the 7 steps of how to do all of this stuff. And it's super clear. And I want families to have everybody get involved, right? Parents and the kids. And the fun part of this is the kids not only improve, but parents feel better also. And then we do the third part are the recipes. So, and you can get my book. It's on all the places where you can buy books, Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Target. And we've got you can go on my website at sheilakilbane.com and /book. And you'll see all the information. And right now we've got some great bonuses and things for you if you buy the book. And it will just guide you through exactly how to do this.
Wow, that was so great.
Great.
Dr. Sheila, where can people learn more about your work?
Yeah, so right at my website, so Sheila, it's Sheilakilbane.com, and I have loads of information on there. And I do, we have a practice in Charlotte, North Carolina. You just have to be able to come to see me physically. And then we have an online course that families can do no matter where you live in the globe, and then everybody can get the book.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kilbane.
You are so welcome. You gentlemen are a delight. And I can see how your mom, the first time I met your mother, she radiates joy. And I can see how you all have you've got what do I call it? You've got the light. You've got that fun twinkle.
Well, thank you so much. Now let's recap your key points. Inflammation is the fire in your body created by immune system as it tries to get rid of infections or heal us from injuries. But today, we kids are chronically inflamed. The rise in chronic disease is due to imbalance of uh, the imbalance of good healthy foods and artificial foods. We can lower inflammation by putting our lifestyles back into balance. When we do that, we lower inflammation and improve not one, but almost of our chronic health conditions that us kids have to deal with. So, Dr. Sheila, you want us to focus on our food, environmental allergies, environmental toxins, infection, diseases, and stress. Now, focus on nutrient dense foods that will heal the gut, keep hormones balanced, like lots of real rainbow foods. Clean protein and healthy fat decrease the number of processed foods. You the amount of that you eat. Take out the cereal and have a green smoothie for breakfast. And you can add if all the kinds of fruits that you want. And we love to do that. Lower environmental allergies. Allergies indoor and outdoor and toxins like mold and heavy metal. Three, ask your doctor to look for chronic inflammations like bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, and so much more. Lower physical and emotional stress. We love to incorporate mindfulness, meditation, prayer, and gratitude.
Mm, amen. Absolutely. That was a beautiful summary.
It's our pleasure.
It's our
It's
pleasure.
our pleasure.
Wow, Dr. Kilbane, that was amazing. Thank you again for honoring us with your time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Ansari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family and I on social media. Holistic Mom and Tea, and look out for my mom's book, The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Ending Chronic Inflammation and Disease. We are so excited to announce our mom's new books, The Holistic RX for Kids, Parenting Healthy Brains and Bodies in a Changing World, and the amazing children's book we wrote together called Adam's Healing Adventure. The Power of Rainbow Foods. So check it out on Amazon. Yay! If you order today, you get lots of free gifts. And we all love free gifts. Who
We
doesn't
do.
want free gifts?
We do.
Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthier future for all of us.
Stop this.
And us kids and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.